Hi, my name is Joshua Pex. I'm a lawyer at the law offices of Cohen Decker Pex Blosh. We deal in immigration to Israel, and today I'm going to tell you a short story, which is a specific case, but maybe it can also shed light on a wider picture of everything that has to do with Aliyah to Israel according to the law of return. Well, as you know, every Jew, but also children and grandchildren of Jews, are eligible to make Aliyah and receive Israeli citizenship according to the law of return. Many times, apart from the documents that prove Judaism, the clerks at Misrad Apnim, at the Ministry of Interior, also demand a letter from a rabbi. Well, it's interesting to know that this requirement of bringing a letter from a rabbi doesn't appear in the law, and it doesn't even appear in the internal procedures of the Ministry of Interior, but this is something that the clerks will almost always ask. So what happened in our story is that there was a young girl, a young woman from Mexico, that she grew up in Mexico City. Her father was Jewish, her mother was not, but she grew up in a fairly secular environment. When she did come to Israel, she really fell in love with Israel and wanted to reconnect with her Jewish roots. And she did have all the documents she needed to prove she's Jewish. She had documents from her father that did the bar mitzvah. She had documents to show that her grandparents were buried in a Jewish cemetery. But when she placed and submitted the request for Aliyah, the clerks at the Ministry of Interior office in Jerusalem asked for a letter from a rabbi, not any rabbi, a rabbi that knows her from abroad and also is part of a recognized list of rabbis. Well, this was something she couldn't produce. She didn't grow up in a Jewish community, so there was no rabbi in Mexico that could bring this letter. When she came to us, it was already a few months had passed by, and the Ministry of Interior didn't grant her request because they demanded the letter from a rabbi. We told her, first of all, if you can get a letter from a rabbi from Mexico, that would be the easiest thing. We contacted her father, but her father was also very clear that there was no rabbi that could bring this letter because they didn't have really any connections at the moment or for many years with a Jewish synagogue. From Israel, she was able to bring a letter from a rabbi in Israel, part of a synagogue she would go to sometimes, did look at her documents and said, I have no problem to write a letter that says that yes, she is the daughter of a Jewish father, but this wasn't enough for Misrad Apnim. They demanded, no, you have to bring a letter from a rabbi from Mexico. Well, the girl and her father said, we're going to fight this, we'll take this to court. In Israel, everything that has to do with administrative law with Misrad Apnim, before you go to court, you submit an internal appeal. We did that. The internal appeal was rejected, so we needed to submit the claim to the administrative court in Jerusalem, which is part of the district court. A few weeks or a few months after we submitted this claim to court, we were contacted by the lawyers representing the state, and they said, we asked that you erase the appeal and your client will get Israeli citizenship according to the law of return. And of course, we did recommend our client to take this approach, and she did receive the Israeli citizenship. On the other hand, she and her father really wanted to get back also the court fees and legal expenses, but this, in this case, and most cases of this nature, is not part of the deal. So you agree to erase the claim, you get what you want, but you usually in Israel, in these cases, you will not get your legal fees back. So this was one example to show you that sometimes you can stand up for your rights in front of the Ministry of Interior. So if you have any questions, please contact us.